The envelope sat on my kitchen table like a promise. 43 years of teaching in underfunded schools, 43 years of molding young minds, and now this, a pension payout that made my hands shake. $375,000. I'd never seen that many zeros attached to my name before. My heart pounded as I read the number again, my reading glasses sliding down my nose. At 72 years old, I thought my days of surprises were over. I was wrong about that. Dead wrong. Because when I rushed to share this blessing with my husband of 50 years, I discovered a secret that would tear my whole world apart and set me free in ways I never imagined. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. My name is Loretta Mae Washington, and if you'd asked me that Tuesday morning if I was happy, I would have said yes without hesitation. Vernon and I had built a good life. We'd raised 3 children in our modest brick house on the south side. We'd survived lean years and celebrated fat ones. We'd buried both our parents and danced at our grandchildren's birthday parties. I trusted that man with every fiber of my being. I should have known better. The pension letter arrived at 10:47 a.m. I remember because I was watching my morning shows, still in my house dress and slippers, sipping my second cup of coffee, cream, no sugar, the way I'd drunk it since 1952. The mailman, young Terrell from down the street, knocked instead of just leaving it in the box. "Mrs. Washington, this looks important," he said, handing me the certified envelope. "Needs a signature." My signature trembled as I signed his little device. The Illinois Teachers' Retirement System logo gleamed in the corner. Inside, the letter explained that due to a special state program and my decades of service in underserved districts, I qualified for an enhanced pension distribution. The money would hit my account within 48 hours. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Then I laughed. Then I cried. Then I grabbed my phone to call Vernon. "Baby, you at the office?" I asked when he picked up. "Where else would I be at 11 in the morning, Loretta?" His voice had that edge it got when I interrupted his work. Vernon ran a small insurance firm downtown, Washington and Associates, though the only associate was his secretary, a woman named Candace who'd worked for him for 15 years. "I got some news. Big news. I'm coming down there." "Can't it wait till I get home? I got a client meeting at 2. Something in my chest fluttered. After 50 years, I wanted to see his face when I told him. I wanted to watch his eyes light up, feel his arms around me, maybe even dance a little in his office like we used to dance in our kitchen when the kids were small. "It can't wait, Vernon. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I changed into my good purple dress, the one Vernon always said brought out my eyes, applied my lipstick, Revlon's Love That Red, same shade since 1975, put on my pearl earrings, the ones he'd given me for our 25th anniversary. I felt like a young woman again, giddy with a secret, rushing to my husband with good news. The drive downtown took 25 minutes. I parked in the visitor spot outside his building, a small office complex he'd moved into 5 years ago. The directory in the lobby listed Washington and Associates on the 3rd floor. My knees ached as I climbed the stairs. The elevator was broken again, but I didn't care. I had the pension letter clutched in my purse, my proof of blessing, my ticket to the retirement Vernon and I had dreamed about. We'd planned it all. A trip to Ghana, to trace our roots. A new roof for the house. Money set aside for the grandchildren's education. Maybe even a little place down south where we could escape Chicago winters. The hallway on the 3rd floor was quiet. Vernon's office sat at the end, his name etched on frosted glass. I reached for the doorknob, ready to burst in with my news, when I heard voices inside. Vernon's voice, and a woman's. "When are you going to tell her?" the woman asked. Not Candace. I knew Candace's voice, high and nasally. This voice was younger, smoother, dripping with honey. "Tell her what?" Vernon replied. "That I'm done? That I've been done for years?" My hand froze on the doorknob. "You promised me, Vernon. You said once the pension came through, we'd have enough to start fresh. Just you and me." The pension. My pension. And we will, baby. Loretta's getting that payout any day now. $375,000. I've been married to her for 50 years. In Illinois, that's community property. Half of it's mine by law. Only half? The woman's voice turned sharp. Vernon laughed, low and cruel. Loretta will give me more than half. She's always been simple that way. Trusting. I'll tell her we need to invest it. Put it in my business account for tax purposes. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. She always has. The hallway tilted. I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. The pension letter in my purse suddenly felt like it was burning through the leather. What about the house? The woman asked. Already took care of that. Had her sign a quitclaim deed 2 years ago. Told her it was for estate planning. The house is in my name now. Once we get the pension money transferred, I'll file for divorce. She'll be too proud to fight, too churchy to make a scene. We'll be in Atlanta by Christmas, baby. Brand new life. And she won't suspect anything between now and then? Loretta? She doesn't suspect anything now, and we've been carrying on for 3 years. Woman's so busy with her church committees and her grandkids. She barely notices when I come home anymore. 3 years. The number hit me like a fist. I couldn't breathe. The hallway walls pressed in, my vision blurred. 50 years of marriage, 50 years of standing by this man. I'd worked 2 jobs to put him through business school. I'd nursed him through a heart attack 5 years ago, sleeping in a hospital chair for a week. I'd buried my dreams of becoming a principal so he could start his firm. I'd loved him with everything I had. And he'd been planning to rob me blind. The woman laughed, light and airy. You're terrible, Vernon Washington. Good thing I love terrible men. You love this terrible man's about-to-be-loaded bank account, Vernon said. But that's all right. We'll spend it together. I backed away from the door. My heel caught on the carpet and I stumbled, catching myself on the wall. The sound echoed in the quiet hallway. Inside the office, the voices stopped. You hear something? The woman asked. Probably just the pipes. This building's old as dirt. I ran. Those 72-year-old knees be damned. I ran down that hallway, down those stairs, out to my car. My hands shook so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. Tears blurred my vision as I pulled out of the parking lot. But halfway home, something shifted inside me. The tears dried. My hands steadied on the wheel. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I wasn't crying anymore. I was planning. Vernon thought I was simple, trusting, easy to manipulate. 50 years of loving him, and he'd mistaken my love for stupidity. He was about to learn the difference. I walked into my house. My house. No matter whose name was on the deed, and went straight to my computer. Vernon had taught me to use it for email and Facebook. He thought that was all I knew. But my grandson DeAndre, studying computer science at Howard, had taught me plenty more during his summer visits. First, I logged into the bank account Vernon and I shared. The pension payment hadn't arrived yet. Good. I opened a new account at a different bank, one in only my name, with a password Vernon would never guess. The date of my first teaching contract, before I'd ever met him. Then I called the Illinois Teachers' Retirement System. A pleasant young woman named Keisha answered. I need to update my direct deposit information, I said, my voice steady as stone, for my pension distribution. Of course, Mrs. Washington. I'll need to verify some information first. 10 minutes later, it was done. The pension money would go into my new account, the one Vernon didn't know existed. He could check our joint account every day until Jesus returned. He'd never see a dime of my pension. Next, I called my oldest son, Marcus. He was a lawyer in Atlanta, ironically enough, the city Vernon planned to run off to. Mama, what's wrong? You never called during the workday. Baby, I need you to listen very carefully. Don't interrupt, don't ask questions yet. Just listen. I told him everything. The pension, the conversation I'd overheard, Vernon's plans. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Mama, are you somewhere safe right now?" "I'm home." "Does he know you heard him?" "No." "Good. Keep it that way. Don't confront him. Don't let on that anything's changed. Can you do that?" Could I? Could I look at Vernon across the dinner table, pour his coffee, kiss his cheek, all while knowing what he'd planned to do to me? "Yes," I said. "I can do that. I'm catching the next flight out. Should be there by tonight. In the meantime, I need you to gather documents. Quietly. Bank statements, the deed to the house, tax returns, insurance policies. Anything with both your names on it. Can you do that without him noticing?" "He's at the office until 6. I got time." "One more thing, Mama. This woman he's with, you recognize the voice?" "No. Younger, though. Much younger." Marcus cursed under his breath. "We're going to fix this. I promise you. But Mama, don't sign anything else he puts in front of you. Nothing. You understand?" "I understand, baby." After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a moment, looking around at my life. Pictures of our children and grandchildren on the walls, the table where we'd eaten thousands of meals, the window where I'd waited for Vernon to come home, night after night, year after year, never knowing he'd stopped wanting to come home at all. Then I stood up and got to work. Vernon kept all our important papers in his study, in a file cabinet he thought was locked. But I'd known where he hid the key for 30 years, in a fake book on the shelf, the complete works of Shakespeare, which Vernon had never opened in his life. I found everything Marcus asked for, and more. As I photographed documents with my phone, another trick DeAndre had taught me, I found something else. A folder labeled Atlanta Property. Inside were listings for condos in Buckhead, luxury buildings with doormen and pools, 2-bedroom units ranging from $400,000 to $600,000. Several listings had check marks beside them, and paperwork for a mortgage pre-approval, in Vernon's name only, for $500,000. He'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. My phone buzzed. A text from Vernon. "Working late, don't wait dinner." I texted back, "Okay, baby, there's meatloaf in the fridge." Baby. I could still call him that. I could still play the role of the loving, trusting wife. Because that's what would protect me now, his certainty that I was too simple to see what was right in front of my face. By the time Marcus arrived that evening, I had copies of everything. We sat at my kitchen table, and he went through it all with his lawyer's eye. "The house situation is bad," he finally said. "The quitclaim deed is legal. You signed it." I thought I was helping with estate planning. "I know, Mama, we might be able to challenge it based on fraud, but that's a long shot. The good news is the pension is yours, solely yours. He can't touch it unless you give it to him, or unless he files for divorce and gets a court order, which would take months." He said it was community property. Marcus shook his head. "Illinois law exempts pension benefits from marital property division if you can prove they were earned before the marriage, or if you can prove fraud or dissipation of assets. With what you overheard, we can prove both." "What do I do now?" "Now? You play along. Let him think his plan is working. Meanwhile, we build our case, document everything. If he asks you to sign something, you tell him you want me to look at it first. If he pushes back, you say your accountant recommended it for tax purposes." Vernon is my accountant. Not anymore, he's not. I slept in my bed that night, Vernon's pillow empty beside me. Marcus had gotten a hotel room, but I'd insisted on staying in my own house. This was my home. Vernon might have stolen it on paper, but these walls knew the truth. My phone buzzed around midnight. A text from Vernon. "Staying at the office. Big project. See you tomorrow." He was with her. In our bed? No. In her bed. Some apartment I'd never seen, never known about, while I lay alone in the house I'd made into a home. I should have cried. Instead, I smiled in the darkness. because the pension money had hit my account 2 hours ago. $375,000 in a place Vernon would never find it. And tomorrow, when he asked me about the direct deposit like I knew he would, I was going to give the performance of my life. Vernon Washington thought he'd married a fool. He was about to meet his match. But as I finally drifted off to sleep, my phone buzzed one more time. An email from the bank, our joint bank. The one Vernon thought I barely checked. A notification of a transfer. Vernon had moved $20,000 out of our savings into his business account, and when I logged in to look closer, I saw it wasn't the first transfer. Over the past 6 months, he'd been bleeding our joint accounts dry, moving money in increments small enough that he thought I wouldn't notice. $75,000 gone. Money I'd saved from my teaching salary. Money from the sale of my mother's house. Money I'd thought was secure. My hands started shaking again, but not from fear this time. From rage. I called Marcus back. "Mama, it's midnight. What's wrong?" "I need you to tell me the truth. Can we destroy him? Legally, completely. Can we burn his whole life down?" There was a pause. Then Marcus said, "Yes, Mama. Yes, we can." "Good," I said, "because that's exactly what we're going to do." Just as I was about to hang up, my doorbell rang. At 12:30 in the morning. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman I'd never seen before, her mascara running, her hands shaking. She looked terrified. When I opened the door, she said, "Mrs. Washington, my name is Shanice. I'm your husband's secretary, Candace's daughter. We need to talk. Because Vernon Washington isn't just planning to steal from you, he's planning something so much worse." I stood in my doorway staring at this young woman who'd appeared like a ghost at midnight. Shanice couldn't have been more than 25, with box braids pulled back in a ponytail and fear written across her face. Behind her, the street was empty, silent except for the distant sound of someone's television and the hum of the streetlights. "You better come inside," I said, stepping back to let her in. She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder like someone might be watching. "He can't know I'm here. If Vernon finds out I told you anything—" "Nobody's going to find out. Come on, baby. It's cold out there." My living room suddenly felt too small with this stranger in it. This messenger bringing news I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. I gestured to the couch, but Shanice remained standing, wrapping her arms around herself. "You want some tea? Coffee?" I asked, falling back on the hospitality my mother had taught me, even when my world was crumbling. "No, ma'am, I can't stay long. My mama thinks I'm at work. I picked up a late shift at the hospital. I'm a nursing assistant at County." "Your mama is Candace, Vernon's secretary." "Yes, ma'am. She's worked for him for 15 years. And Mrs. Washington? She has no idea what he's been doing. If she knew—" Shanice's voice cracked. "My mama thinks Vernon Washington is a good man, a family man. She talks about you all the time, about how lucky Mr. Washington is to have such a devoted wife." The irony cut like a knife. "Sit down, Shanice. Tell me what you came to tell me." She finally sank onto the couch, perching on the edge like she might need to run at any moment. I sat across from her in Vernon's recliner, his chair, where he'd sat for 50 years, reading his paper, watching his games, living his secret life. "I work late sometimes at the office building, cleaning crew," Shanice began. "That's how I know. I've seen things, heard things. Vernon and this woman, Deanna, that's her name, Deanna Pierce. She's 34 years old, works as a pharmaceutical rep. She met Vernon at some business conference 2 years ago." He said 3 years, when I overheard him today. Shanice's eyes widened. "You heard them? Today?" "Every word. The pension, the plan to take my money, all of it." "Then you know about the Atlanta condo." "I found the paperwork in his files." "Did you find the life insurance policy?" My blood went cold. "What life insurance policy?" Shanice pulled out her phone, her hands trembling so badly she almost dropped it. Last week, I was emptying trash in Vernon's office. I found this in his shredder. I pulled it out because something felt wrong. I pieced it together. She showed me a photo on her phone. A shredded document, reconstructed like a jigsaw puzzle. A life insurance application from Midwest Mutual. The insured, Loretta Mae Washington. Benefit amount, $1 million. Beneficiary, Vernon Washington. The date on the application was 2 weeks ago. Vernon forged my signature, I whispered, recognizing the imitation of my handwriting. He'd done it well, almost perfectly. 50 years of seeing my signature on birthday cards and grocery lists had taught him how to copy it. That's not all, Shanice said. I heard him on the phone with Deanna last Thursday. He was talking about your medications, your blood pressure pills. He asked her, she works for a pharmaceutical company, remember? He asked her about drug interactions. What would happen if someone took your blood pressure medication with certain other substances? The room spun. I gripped the armrests of Vernon's chair. He's planning to kill me. I don't know for certain. But Mrs. Washington, why else would he take out $1 million life insurance policy on you and then start asking about your medications? And with the pension money, if you die as your spouse, he inherits everything. The pension, the life insurance, the house that's already in his name. He'd walk away with almost $1.5 million. And no divorce necessary, I said quietly. No splitting assets, no court battles, no explanations to our children about why he's leaving their mother after 50 years. Yes, ma'am. I sat there processing. Vernon wasn't just planning to rob me. He was planning to murder me. The man I'd shared a bed with for half a century. The man I'd cooked for, cared for, loved with everything in me. He was going to kill me for money and run off to Atlanta with a woman young enough to be his daughter. Why are you telling me this? I asked Shanice. You could lose your job. Your mama could lose hers. Shanice's eyes filled with tears. Because my grandmother died 3 years ago, she was 75, healthy as a horse, we thought. Then one day she just got sick. Real fast. The doctor said it was a stroke, but it came out of nowhere. My granddaddy remarried 6 months later to a woman 40 years younger. He died last year, and she got everything. Everything my grandmother worked for her whole life. You think your grandfather was murdered? I can't prove it. But Mrs. Washington, when I saw that insurance policy, when I heard Vernon on that phone call, all I could think about was my grandmother. And I thought, not again. I can't watch it happen again and say nothing. I reached across and took her hand. Thank you, baby. You probably just saved my life. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Marcus. Mama, where are you? I just got to your house and you're not here. I'm home. I'm in the living room. Your car's in the driveway, but you're not answering the door. I'd been so focused on Shanice, I hadn't heard him knocking. I went to the door and let him in. When he saw Shanice sitting on the couch, his lawyer instincts kicked in immediately. Who's this? This is Shanice. She just told me that Vernon's planning to kill me. The words sounded insane, spoken out loud, like something from a television movie. But Marcus didn't laugh. He didn't tell me I was being dramatic. He looked at Shanice and said, Tell me everything. From the beginning. Shanice repeated her story while Marcus recorded it on his phone. When she showed him the photo of the insurance policy, his jaw clenched. This is fraud and possibly conspiracy to commit murder, he said. We need to go to the police. Tonight. No, I said. Both of them turned to look at me. Not yet. Mama, the man is planning to kill you. And if we go to the police now, what happens? They investigate. Maybe they question Vernon. Maybe they even arrest him. But Shanice pieced together a shredded document and overheard a phone conversation. Is that enough to convict him? Marcus hesitated. It's enough to investigate. Enough to get a warrant for his financial records, his phone records. And while they're investigating, Vernon disappears. Or he lawyers up and claims Shanice is lying, that she's trying to sabotage him because he fired her mother or some nonsense. Meanwhile, I've shown my hand. He knows I'm on to him. So what do you want to do? I thought about Vernon's face when I'd left the house that morning, heading to his office with my good news. I thought about 50 years of marriage, of trust, of love that I'd given freely while he'd been calculating how to betray me. I thought about that woman, Deanna, laughing in his office about how simple I was. I want to catch him, I said, not just stop him. I want to catch him in a trap so tight he can't talk his way out, can't charm his way free, can't walk away with anything except exactly what he deserves. Shanice leaned forward. How? First, we let him think everything is going according to plan. The pension money came through tonight, but it went into an account he doesn't know about. Tomorrow, when he asks me about it, I'm going to act confused. I'll tell him the fund said it would take a few more days to process. He'll check the joint account, Marcus said. When he doesn't see the deposit, he'll believe you. Right. That buys us time. Meanwhile, Marcus, I need you to find out everything you can about this Deanna Pierce. Where she works, where she lives, what her relationship with Vernon really is. I'll have a private investigator on it first thing in the morning. And the life insurance policy, I continued, my mind working faster than it had in years. Can we file a fraud claim? Report it to the insurance company? We can, but that tips Vernon off. Not if we do it through a lawyer he doesn't know from a firm he's never heard of. Someone reports suspicious activity on my behalf. The insurance company investigates quietly. They flag the policy so it can't be activated without verification of my signature. Marcus smiled, just a little. That could work. If he tries to file a claim, they'll know immediately that the signature was forged. What about my safety? I asked. If Vernon really is planning to hurt me, I can't just stay here and wait for him to try. You're coming to stay with me, Marcus said. Tonight. Pack a bag. No. If I disappear, Vernon panics. We need him calm, confident, thinking everything is going his way. Mama, I'll be careful. I won't eat or drink anything Vernon gives me. I'll keep my medications locked up where he can't get to them. And Marcus, you're staying at the Holiday Inn down the street, not across town. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, I'll call you immediately. Shanice stood up. I need to go. My mama will worry if I'm too late. Before you leave, I said, does your mama know about Deanna? No, ma'am. She has no idea. She'd be devastated. Then we keep it that way for now. Can you keep watching? Keep listening? If Vernon says anything else, anything at all about his plans, you let us know? Yes, ma'am, I will. She paused at the door. Mrs. Washington? My grandmother's name was Loretta, too. Loretta Jean Parker. She was the strongest woman I ever knew, until she couldn't be strong anymore. So please, please be strong enough for both of you. After she left, Marcus and I sat in the silence of my living room. You're playing a dangerous game, Mama, he finally said. It's the only game I've got. Vernon has been playing me for years. It's time I returned the favor. At least let me stay here. Sleep on the couch. I almost said yes. But then I thought about how Vernon would react if he came home to find Marcus here. Questions I couldn't answer without revealing what I knew. Tomorrow night, I said. Tell Vernon you're in town for a conference, wanted to visit your mama. Stay for dinner. That way you're close without it being suspicious. Marcus didn't like it, but he agreed. After he left, I locked every door, checked every window. Then I went to my bedroom and looked at the bed I'd shared with Vernon for 50 years. I couldn't sleep there. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. I took a pillow and a blanket to the guest room, the one we'd always kept ready for the grandchildren. The bed was small and the mattress was lumpy, but it had a lock on the door. I turned the deadbolt and wedged a chair under the handle for good measure. My phone buzzed. Vernon. Still working. Home late tomorrow. Love you. Love you. 2 words that used to mean everything. Now they were just another lie in a relationship built on deception. I typed back, love you too. Be safe. I could lie too. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the guest room window and the smell of coffee brewing. For one confused moment, I thought I'd dreamed everything. Then I remembered. I'd set the coffee maker on a timer last night, a security measure. If I smelled coffee I hadn't made, I'd know Vernon had come home. But the house was empty. His car wasn't in the garage. He'd stayed out all night. With her, probably, in whatever love nest they'd created with money stolen from our joint account. I went through my morning routine on autopilot. Shower, dress, coffee and toast. Check my new bank account. The pension money was still there, safe, untouchable. Then I called Vernon. "Morning, baby," I said, voice sweet as honey. "You coming home today?" "Later this afternoon. Got a few more things to wrap up here. How you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine. Hey, I was wondering, that pension money. They said it should have posted by now, but I don't see it in our account. You think there's a problem?" Silence on the other end. I could practically hear him calculating. "Did you call them?" he asked. "Not yet. Thought maybe you could. You're so much better with these financial things than I am." "I'll handle it. Don't worry about it." "You're so good to me, Vernon." "That's what husbands are for. Listen, when that money comes through, we need to talk about investing it. I've got some opportunities that could really grow that nest egg for us." "Of course, baby. Whatever you think is best." After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and laughed. Not a happy laugh, a bitter, angry laugh that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Whatever you think is best. That's what I'd been saying for 50 years. And look where it had gotten me. My phone rang again. Marcus. The PI found Deanna Pierce. She works for Morrison Pharmaceuticals, based in Schaumburg. She's divorced, no kids, lives in a high-rise in River North. And Mama, you need to brace yourself for this. She's been posting on social media about her future plans in Atlanta. Pictures of condos, restaurants, the city skyline. She's not even hiding it. Why would she? She doesn't think I exist as anything but an obstacle. There's more. The PI talked to some people at her company. Apparently, Deanna's been having financial troubles. Gambling debts. She owes money to some serious people. Meeting Vernon was like winning the lottery for her. So she's using him just like he's using me. Looks that way. Oh, and I filed the fraud complaint with the insurance company through a colleague's firm. They're investigating. Good. What about the house? The quitclaim deed? Marcus sighed. I talked to 3 real estate attorneys. The consensus is that proving fraud is going to be difficult. You did sign the deed, even if you didn't understand what you were signing. So Vernon gets to keep my house? Not necessarily. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but judges do consider misconduct when dividing assets. If we can prove Vernon defrauded you, manipulated you, planned to harm you, the judge might award you a larger share of the marital estate. Maybe even award you the house outright as compensation. If we can prove it. That's why we need to be smart about this. Document everything. Record conversations if Illinois allows it. Illinois is a 2-party consent state, I said. Marcus had taught me that years ago when he first became a lawyer. Right. So we can't record him without his knowledge. But we can keep detailed notes of every conversation, every interaction, and we can catch him in contradictions. I've got a better idea, I said. What if Vernon thought the pension money finally came through? What if I told him it hit the joint account and I wanted to celebrate? Take him out to dinner, somewhere public, somewhere nice. Invite people. What people? Our kids. His business partner from way back, Jerome. Maybe some folks from church. A celebration dinner for my retirement. And then what? And then, in front of all those witnesses, Vernon will show his hand. He'll try to manipulate me into signing over the money. He won't be able to help himself. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That's risky. If he realizes you're setting him up, he won't. because he spent 50 years believing I'm too simple to outsmart him. That arrogance is going to be his downfall. We talked for another hour, planning every detail. The restaurant, Maxine's, a soul food place in Bronzeville where we'd celebrated every major family milestone for 30 years. The guest list, our 3 children, my sister Betty, Vernon's cousin Jerome, and Reverend Patterson from our church. People who knew us, who'd witnessed our marriage, who'd believed they were attending a happy celebration. And then Vernon would try to steal from me in front of all of them. That afternoon, I went to the bank, my new bank, the one with my pension money. I met with a financial advisor named Claudette, a sharp-eyed woman about my daughter's age. "Mrs. Washington, this is a substantial sum," she said, reviewing my account. "We should talk about protecting it." "That's exactly what I want to do. I need this money somewhere my husband can't access it, can't touch it, can't even see it exists." Claudette's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "I see. Are you going through a divorce?" "Not yet, but I will be." "Then let me set you up with something ironclad. A revocable trust with you as the sole trustee. The money goes into the trust, which you control completely. It won't show up in your name on any database your husband might access. And if he tries to subpoena your bank records, the trust is a separate legal entity." "Do it." By the time I left the bank 2 hours later, my pension money was locked up tighter than Fort Knox. Vernon could scheme and plot all he wanted. He'd never touch a penny of it. When I got home, Vernon's car was in the driveway. My heart jumped into my throat, but I forced myself to stay calm. I walked into my house like I had nothing to hide. Vernon was in the kitchen going through the mail. He looked up when I entered, and for just a second, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating. Then he smiled, and it was gone. "There's my beautiful wife," he said, coming over to kiss my cheek. "Where you been?" "Just out running errands." "How was work?" "Exhausting. That project's killing me." He stretched, playing the part of the overworked husband. "Hey, I called the retirement fund. They said there was a processing delay with your pension, but it should hit our account tomorrow or the next day." "Oh, that's good. I was starting to worry." "No need to worry. I'm taking care of everything." He wrapped his arms around me, and I let him, even though my skin crawled. "When that money comes, we're going to do something special. Celebrate your retirement right." "Actually," I said, pulling back to look at him, "I was thinking the same thing. Let's have a dinner, invite the kids, some friends. Make it a real party." Vernon's smile faltered. "That's a lot of people to share our business with." "It's not about business, baby. It's about family, about celebrating together." "We've been blessed, Vernon. We should share that blessing." I could see him calculating, trying to figure out how to say no without seeming suspicious. "Plus," I added, "wouldn't it be nice to have everyone together? When was the last time all 3 kids were at the same table?" He couldn't argue with that. "You're right. Okay, let's do it. When?" "This Saturday. I'll call Maxine's tomorrow, see if they can fit us in." "Saturday's only 4 days away. The pension will be here by then, right? We'll have plenty to celebrate." Vernon kissed my forehead. "You're something else, Loretta. Always thinking about family." "That's what wives do," I said. That night, lying in the guest room with the door locked, I texted Marcus. "It's set. Saturday night. Maxine's at 7. Tell your brother and sister to be there. Tell them it's important, but don't tell them why." Marcus responded immediately. "Mama, are you sure about this?" I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The next 3 days passed in a strange fog. I played my role perfectly, the devoted wife, excited about her pension, trusting her husband completely. Vernon played his role too, all concern and care, talking about investment strategies and retirement plans. He even showed me a brochure for a financial management firm, explaining how they could help us maximize our returns. The firm was based in Atlanta. On Friday morning, I told him the pension had finally posted to our joint account. "That's wonderful, baby." He actually looked excited. "Let me call my guy. Set up a meeting for next week." "Not until after the dinner," I said. "I want to celebrate first." "Enjoy the moment. There's plenty of time for business." He didn't like that, but he agreed. Saturday came. I spent the morning at the salon, getting my hair done. My stylist, Monica, who'd been doing my hair for 20 years, noticed something different. "Miss Loretta, you got a glow about you today," she said. "What's the occasion?" "Retirement dinner. My pension finally came through." "Well, all right now. That's what I'm talking about. You enjoy yourself tonight. You earned it." I met my sister Betty for lunch. She hugged me tight and said, "Marcus called me. He's worried about you. Said you've been acting strange." "I'm fine, Betty. Better than fine." "Loretta May, I've known you for 70 years. Don't lie to me." So I told her. Not everything, not about the murder plot, because I couldn't bear to say those words out loud again. But about Vernon's plans to steal my pension. About Deanna. About the 50 years of love I'd given to a man who'd been planning to throw me away. Betty cried. Then she got angry. Then she said, "What do you need me to do?" "Just be there tonight. Watch. Listen. And whatever happens, don't interfere. Can you promise me that?" "I don't like this." "Promise me, Betty." She promised. At 6:30, I put on my best dress, deep blue silk that Vernon had always loved, and my pearls. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked strong, determined, ready for battle. Vernon came up behind me, adjusting his tie. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you, baby." In the mirror, our reflections looked like any other married couple preparing for a night out. No one would have guessed that I was about to burn his whole world down. We arrived at Maxine's at 6:55. Our table was ready, set for 10. Marcus was already there with his wife, Jennifer. My daughter, Natasha, arrived moments later with her husband, Deshaun. My youngest, Kenneth, came rushing in apologizing for being late. Betty arrived. Jerome, Vernon's old business partner. Reverend Patterson. We ordered drinks, appetizers. Everyone laughed and talked, celebrating my retirement. Vernon held my hand across the table, playing the proud husband. At 7:30, right after our entrees arrived, I stood up, tapped my water glass to get everyone's attention. "I want to thank you all for being here tonight," I began. 43 years of teaching, and finally, I can rest. The pension I received is more than I ever dreamed of, and I want to celebrate it with the people I love most. Everyone clapped. Vernon beamed. "But before we eat," I continued, "I need to ask my husband something. Vernon, honey, you've been so helpful these past few days, talking about investment strategies, about securing our future. You even found that financial management firm. What was it called again?" Vernon's smile froze. "Atlanta Financial Group. But Loretta, we don't need to talk business tonight." "Oh, I think we do, because you see, I'm confused about something. When you filled out that application for them, did you mean to list yourself as the sole account holder? Because that's what it says here." I pulled out the paperwork I'd found in his files. The room went quiet. Vernon's face went pale. "Loretta, you're misunderstanding. And this life insurance policy, the one with my forged signature, the $1 million policy that names you as beneficiary. Can you explain that?" Marcus stood up, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "Mama, sit down, baby. I'm not finished." I looked around the table at my family, my friends, my pastor, all of them staring in shock. Then I looked at Vernon. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you really believe I was that stupid?" Vernon stood, his chair scraping back. "You've been going through my private files. Your private files about stealing my money? Your private plans to run off to Atlanta with a woman named Deanna Pierce? Your private conspiracy to commit fraud?" Natasha gasped. Kenneth said, "Dad, what is she talking about?" "Nothing. Your mother's confused." "She's been under stress. I heard you. I said, my voice cutting through his lies. At your office 4 days ago, I heard you and Deanna laughing about how simple I was, how trusting, how easy it would be to take everything from me. The restaurant had gone silent. Other diners were watching now. Vernon's mask finally cracked. You want to do this here? Fine. Yes, I'm leaving you. I have been planning to leave you. You know why? Because I'm tired, Loretta. Tired of being married to a woman who's gotten old and boring. Tired of pretending I'm happy. I've given you 50 years. That's enough. And my pension? My money? Community property. Half of it's mine by law. I smiled then. Really smiled. Except it's not in our joint account, Vernon. It never was. You've been checking that account every day, waiting for it to show up. But I had it deposited somewhere else. Somewhere you'll never touch it. Vernon's face went from pale to red. You can't do that. That's marital property. Actually, Dad, she can, Marcus said, standing again. Illinois law exempts pension benefits from marital property division in cases of fraud, which this clearly is. And the house? Vernon's voice was shaking now. The house is in my name. You signed it over. Under false pretenses, which makes that fraud too. You'll never prove it. I don't have to prove anything yet, I said. But the insurance company you tried to defraud, they're investigating. The state's attorney's office? They've been notified about the forged documents. And Deanna Pierce? My son's investigator has been very interested in her gambling debts and her criminal associates. Vernon lunged across the table, reaching for me. Marcus and Deshawn grabbed him, pulling him back. Other diners screamed. Maxine herself came rushing over. You ruined everything, Vernon shouted. Everything I planned, you stupid— I'm not stupid, I said quietly. I was just in love. There's a difference. Then the restaurant door opened, and 2 police officers walked in, and behind them, looking terrified and guilty, was Deanna Pierce herself. Vernon Washington, one officer said, we need you to come with us. We have some questions about insurance fraud and conspiracy. Vernon stared at Deanna. What did you do? She didn't do anything, the officer said. Except agree to cooperate with our investigation in exchange for a lesser charge. Something about threatening phone calls to Mrs. Washington here. Deanna's phone records were very enlightening. My hands were shaking as I watched Vernon being led away in handcuffs, still shouting about his rights, about how I'd pay for this, about how his lawyer would destroy me. But all I could think about was Shanice and her grandmother, Loretta Jean Parker, who didn't get a chance to fight back. I'd fought back for both of us. The silence in Maxine's restaurant after the police left was deafening. 10 people sat around a table covered in cooling food that nobody had appetite for anymore. My hands finally stopped shaking, but my whole body felt like I'd run a marathon. I looked around at the faces of my children, Marcus, Natasha, Kenneth, and saw shock, confusion, and something that looked like grief. Mama, Natasha whispered, tears streaming down her face. Mama, I don't understand. Daddy was he was really going to— Take everything from me, I finished. Yes, baby, he was. Kenneth stood abruptly, his chair falling backward. I need air. He practically ran out of the restaurant. Reverend Patterson, who'd been silent this whole time, reached across the table and took my hand. Sister Loretta, how long have you known? 4 days, that's all. 4 days ago I thought I had a good marriage. Shows you how wrong a person can be after 50 years. Why didn't you come to me? To the church? We could have helped, counseled— Counseled what, Reverend? A man who took out a life insurance policy with my forged signature? A man who was asking his mistress about drug interactions with my blood pressure medication? The words came out harder than I intended. This wasn't a marriage that could be saved. This was a crime that needed to be stopped. Betty put her arm around me. You should have told me everything. The life insurance, the threats. I told you what I could when I could. The rest happened so fast. I looked at Marcus. Your son did most of the heavy lifting. Him and a brave young woman named Shanice. Who's Shanice? Natasha asked. So I told them the whole story. Shanice appearing at my door at midnight, the shredded insurance documents, the overheard phone conversations about my medications. By the time I finished, Natasha was sobbing openly, and even Marcus had tears in his eyes. He was going to kill you, Natasha said. Our father was going to murder our mother for money. We don't know that for certain, I said, though we all knew it was true. But he was definitely planning to steal from me, and he definitely forged legal documents. That's enough. Jerome, Vernon's old business partner, finally spoke up. He'd been sitting there like a statue, his face gray. Loretta, I swear to God, I had no idea. Vernon and I haven't been close in years. He bought me out of the partnership back in 2010. But if I'd known he was capable of something like this... Nobody knew, Jerome. That's what makes it so perfect. Vernon spent 50 years building a reputation as a good man, a family man, a church man. Who would suspect him? A lot of people are going to suspect him now, Marcus said grimly. This is going to be all over the news by tomorrow. He was right. By the time we left Maxine's, me leaving half my meal untouched, everyone hugging me like I might disappear, I already had 3 missed calls from local reporters. Someone at the restaurant had filmed Vernon being arrested. The video was already spreading on social media. That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time since discovering Vernon's betrayal. Marcus wanted me to stay with him, but I refused. This was my house, regardless of whose name was on the deed, and I wasn't going to be driven out of it by fear. But I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vernon's face across that restaurant table, twisted with rage when he realized I'd outsmarted him. I heard his voice. You ruined everything I planned. Good, I thought. That was exactly what I intended to do. Sunday morning, I got up and got dressed for church. Betty called at 7 a.m. You're not seriously going to service today, she said. Why wouldn't I? Loretta, the whole city knows what happened by now. People are going to stare. They're going to whisper. They're going to ask questions. Let them. I've got nothing to hide. Vernon's the one who should be ashamed, not me. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. I'm coming with you. She picked me up at 8:30. When we walked into Greater Hope Baptist Church at 9:15, the sanctuary went silent. Hundreds of faces turned toward me. I lifted my chin and walked down that aisle like I owned it, straight to the 3rd pew on the right where I'd sat every Sunday for 48 years. The whispers started before I even sat down. I could feel eyes on me, hear fragments of conversation. Arrested at Maxine's. Insurance fraud. 50 years of marriage. Then Deacon Williams stood up in the choir loft and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, Sister Loretta, we're glad you're here. This church stands with you. One by one, other voices joined in. That's right. We're here for you, sister. You're not alone. By the time Reverend Patterson took the pulpit, half the congregation had come by to squeeze my hand or hug my neck. And when he announced that today's sermon would be about betrayal and redemption, about Joseph and his brothers, about how God can turn evil plans into pathways to blessing, I knew he'd changed his whole message just for me. Sometimes, Reverend Patterson said, his voice ringing through the sanctuary, the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us worst, but God sees, God knows, and God will vindicate the faithful. I cried through the whole sermon. Not sad tears, cleansing tears, healing tears. After service, I was surrounded. Church mothers who'd known me for decades, young women who'd been in my Sunday school classes, men who'd worked with Vernon on the deacon board and looked embarrassed now. Everyone wanted to know what they could do to help. Pray, I told them. Just pray. Mother Gladys, 89 years old and sharp as a tack, pulled me aside. Loretta May, you listen to me. That man tried to destroy you, but you're still standing. That's God's grace right there. Now you take that grace and you build yourself a new life. You hear me? Yes, ma'am. And when this goes to court, because it will go to court, you make sure that judge knows exactly what kind of man Vernon Washington is. Not the man he pretended to be. The man he really is. Monday morning at 9 a.m., I was sitting in Marcus's law office with 2 other attorneys he'd brought in to help with my case. Patricia Okonkwo specialized in elder financial abuse. David Chen, no relation to anyone I knew, handled insurance fraud cases. Together, they laid out what the next few months would look like. The criminal case against Vernon is the state's responsibility, Patricia explained. They'll prosecute the insurance fraud, the forgery. But the civil case, getting your house back, protecting your assets, filing for divorce, that's where we come in. How long will it take? Honestly, could be a year or more. Vernon's going to fight. He's already hired Mitchell Kaczynski, one of the best defense attorneys in Illinois. This won't be easy. I don't need easy, I said. I need justice. Then let's talk about what justice looks like for you. The house. We're going to argue fraud in the inducement. You signed that quitclaim deed based on Vernon's false representation that it was for estate planning. We have a good chance of getting it voided. And if we can't? Then we argue for compensatory damages in the divorce. Illinois allows judges to consider misconduct when dividing property. Vernon's attempt to defraud you, the affair, the forged insurance documents, all of that weighs in your favor. David jumped in. The insurance company has already voided the fraudulent policy and flagged Vernon's name in their system. He'll never be able to take out another policy on you. They're also considering filing their own civil suit against him for attempted fraud. What about the money he took from our joint accounts? The $75,000? We'll get that back. It's called dissipation of marital assets, when one spouse wastes or hides money in anticipation of divorce. The judge can order him to pay it back, with interest. Over the next 2 hours, we went through everything. Bank statements, property records, the timeline of Vernon's deception, the evidence Shanice had provided. By the time we finished, I had a stack of papers 3 inches thick and a court date set for preliminary hearings in 2 weeks. One more thing, Patricia said as I was leaving. Have you thought about a protective order, given the threat to your safety? No. Vernon's not going to hurt me now. Too many people are watching. Besides, he's probably more afraid of me than I am of him at this point. Marcus walked me to my car. Mama, are you sure you're okay? You can still stay with me and Jennifer. The guest room's ready. Baby, I appreciate it. But I need to be in my own space right now. I need to figure out who I am without Vernon. I can't do that hiding in someone else's house. At least, let me install some security cameras and get you a medical alert button, just in case. I almost argued, then realized he needed to do something to feel useful. Okay, but nothing too fancy. I don't need my house looking like Fort Knox. That afternoon, while Marcus's security guy installed cameras, I went through the house room by room. 50 years of accumulated life. Wedding photos. I couldn't stand to look at anymore. Vernon's clothes in the closet, his cologne on the bathroom counter, his recliner in the living room, worn down by decades of his weight. I started in the bedroom, pulled all his clothes out of the closet, and dumped them in garbage bags. His suits, his shirts, his shoes, all of it. The cologne went in the trash. His electric razor, his reading glasses, his collection of jazz records. Garbage bags, every last item. By the time I finished, I had 17 bags piled in the garage. I called Goodwill and arranged a pickup for the next day. Let someone else get use out of Vernon's things. I sure didn't want them. The recliner was too big to move by myself, so I called Kenneth. He came over that evening, still looking shell-shocked. You want me to take Dad's chair to the dump? He asked. Yes. And then I want you to help me rearrange this living room. I'm tired of looking at it the same way I've looked at it for 48 years. We worked for 3 hours, moved the couch to where the recliner had been, shifted the TV, brought in a bookshelf from the guest room and filled it with my teaching books, my novels, my photo albums of the grandchildren. By the time we finished, the room looked completely different. Lighter, brighter, mine. Kenneth sat on the newly positioned couch and said, "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything, baby." "Did you ever love him? Really love him?" I sat beside my youngest child, this 40-year-old man who still looked like a lost little boy. "Yes, I loved him with everything I had. For 50 years, Kenneth. I loved him through good times and bad, through sickness and health, through everything. That's what makes this so hard. Because the man I loved? He doesn't exist. Maybe he never did. Maybe I just loved the person I wanted him to be. I don't know how to feel about him now. He's my father, but he tried to..." Kenneth's voice broke. "He tried to hurt you, to destroy you. You can love someone and still hold them accountable for their actions. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Are you going to be okay, Mom?" "Yes, baby. I am. In fact, I think I'm going to be better than okay." The next week was a blur. Vernon made bail, $50,000, paid by Deanna Pierce's family, which told me everything I needed to know about their relationship. His lawyer filed a motion to dismiss the criminal charges, arguing that the insurance application was a misunderstanding and that I'd given verbal permission to sign on my behalf. The judge denied the motion. I met with a divorce attorney Patricia recommended, a woman named Simone Blake who had a reputation for aggressive representation. She filed divorce papers on grounds of abandonment and fraud. Vernon's lawyer countered with his own filing, claiming irreconcilable differences and requesting spousal support. "He wants me to pay him alimony?" I said, staring at the papers in disbelief. "He's claiming that he supported you through your teaching career, that his business connections and advice contributed to your pension earnings, and that he's entitled to compensation. That's insane. That's litigation. Don't worry, no judge is going to award him spousal support given the circumstances. But he's trying to muddy the waters, make this look like a typical divorce instead of what it really is." What it really was, the unraveling of a 50-year lie. 2 weeks after Vernon's arrest, I got a phone call from Shanice. She was crying. "Mrs. Washington, my mama knows everything now. Someone at the office told her about Deanna. She's devastated. She quit her job, won't leave her bedroom. Give me your address. I'm coming over." "You don't have to. I'm coming over." Shanice lived in a small apartment in Inglewood with her mother. When Candace opened the door, she looked like she'd aged 10 years. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair wrapped in a scarf. "Mrs. Washington, I'm so sorry," she said immediately. "I had no idea. All those years I worked for Vernon, and I had no idea what he was doing to you." "I feel like such a fool." "You're not a fool, Candace. We both trusted someone we shouldn't have. That makes us human, not stupid." We sat in her small living room, 3 generations of women who'd all been betrayed by Vernon Washington in different ways. Candace told me about the years she'd worked for him, the overtime she'd put in, the times he'd promised her bonuses that never materialized. "He owes me almost $15,000 in back pay," she said, "but his business is shutting down. All his clients are leaving. I'll never see that money." "Yes, you will," I said, "because I'm going to make sure of it." That night I called Marcus. "I want to add Candace to our lawsuit. She's a creditor. Vernon owes her money. When we divide the marital assets, her debt gets paid first." "Mama, that's going to complicate things." "I don't care. She worked for him in good faith. She deserves to be compensated." "Okay, I'll draw up the papers." The preliminary hearing came on a cold November morning. I dressed in my best suit, burgundy wool, professional but not flashy, and walked into that courthouse with my head high. The hallway outside the courtroom was packed with reporters. Cameras flashed in my face. Microphones were shoved toward me. "Mrs. Washington, how do you feel about your husband's betrayal?" "Mrs. Washington, are you afraid he'll retaliate?" "Mrs. Washington, what message do you have for other women in similar situations?" Marcus tried to shield me, but I stopped him. I looked directly at the nearest camera and said, "I have a message for every woman who's ever been made to feel small, or stupid, or invisible by someone who claimed to love them. You are not small, you are not stupid, you are not invisible, and you deserve better. Don't let anyone, not a husband, not a partner, not anyone, steal your worth." Then I walked into that courtroom like I owned it. Vernon was already seated at the defense table with Mitchell Kaczynski. He didn't look at me. Couldn't look at me. Deanna Pierce sat in the back row looking terrified. The gallery was full, reporters, curious onlookers, and to my surprise, at least 30 people from Greater Hope Baptist Church. Mother Gladys sat right behind me, close enough to reach out and squeeze my shoulder. "We got you, baby," she whispered. The judge, a black woman in her 60s named Honorable Charlene Foster, called the hearing to order. The prosecutor laid out the state's case against Vernon: insurance fraud, forgery, theft by deception. Vernon's lawyer argued that it was all a misunderstanding, that Vernon never intended to harm anyone, that his marriage was falling apart, and he'd made some poor decisions. "Poor decisions," Judge Foster repeated. "Mr. Kaczynski, forging someone's signature on a life insurance application isn't a poor decision. It's a crime. Your Honor, my client disputes that the signature was forged. Mrs. Washington has signed many documents over the course of their marriage. It's possible she simply doesn't remember." "I remember everything," I said, standing up. Marcus tried to pull me back down, but I shook him off. "I remember every document I signed, every promise I believed, every lie I swallowed. And I never, ever signed that insurance application." Judge Foster looked at me with something like respect. "Mrs. Washington, please sit down. You'll have your chance to testify." But I wasn't done. "Your Honor, this man spent 50 years making me think I was losing my mind, making me doubt myself, making me small. I won't be made small anymore. Not by him, not by his lawyer, not by anyone." The courtroom erupted in applause. Judge Foster banged her gavel, but she was smiling. "Order! I said order!" But her eyes, when they met mine, said, "I understand." The hearing lasted 4 hours. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The insurance company's investigator explained how they'd detected the forgery. A handwriting expert showed how Vernon had practiced my signature. We'd found the practice sheets in his office files. Then Shanice took the stand. She was so nervous she could barely speak, but she told her story. The shredded documents, the phone conversations, her grandmother's death. By the time she finished, half the courtroom was in tears. Vernon's lawyer tried to discredit her. "Miss Patterson, isn't it true that you have a criminal record? A shoplifting charge when you were 19? "Yes, sir. I made a mistake when I was young. I paid my debt to society. But I'm not making a mistake now. Everything I testified to is the truth." Finally, they called me to the stand. I swore on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I did. I told them about our 50-year marriage, about the sacrifices I'd made, about the day I went to Vernon's office with good news and heard him plotting my destruction, about the fear that gripped me when I realized he might be planning to kill me. Vernon's lawyer tried to shake me. "Mrs. Washington, isn't it possible you misheard, that you jumped to conclusions? I know what I heard. Isn't it possible that you're a bitter, angry woman who's trying to destroy your husband because he wanted to leave you?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Sir, I am angry. I'm angry that I gave 50 years of my life to a man who saw me as nothing but a means to an end. But I'm not trying to destroy Vernon. He destroyed himself the moment he decided my life was worth less than his greed. The courtroom erupted again. Judge Foster didn't even try to stop the applause this time. When it was Vernon's turn to testify, he painted himself as the victim. He claimed I'd become controlling, paranoid. He admitted to the affair, but said it was because our marriage was already over. He denied forging my signature, denied planning to steal my pension, denied everything except his relationship with Deanna. "I loved my wife once," he said, and for a moment he almost sounded sincere. "But people change. She changed. I changed. Sometimes love isn't enough." "Is that why you took out $1 million life insurance policy on her?" the prosecutor asked. "Because love isn't enough?" Vernon had no answer for that. Judge Foster took a brief recess, then returned with her ruling. "I've heard enough testimony today to bind this case over for trial. Mr. Washington, you will remain free on bail with the condition that you have no contact with Mrs. Washington or any potential witnesses in this case. The criminal trial is set for February 15th. As for the civil matters, the divorce, the property division, those will be handled in family court. But let me be clear. I find the evidence of fraud and deception to be substantial and disturbing. Any judge presiding over the divorce proceedings will have access to this testimony." Vernon's face went pale. His lawyer started to object, but Judge Foster cut him off. "I'm not finished. Mrs. Washington, I want to commend you for your courage in coming forward. Too many people, especially in your generation, stay silent about abuse and fraud in their marriages. You've done a service not just to yourself, but to every person who's ever been made to feel powerless in a relationship. Thank you." I could barely see through my tears as I left that courtroom. The church members surrounded me, hugging me, praying over me. Reporters shouted questions. Camera flashes went off like fireworks. But all I could think about was Judge Foster's words. "You've done a service." Maybe I had. Maybe this whole nightmare had a purpose beyond just my own vindication. That night, I got a phone call from a woman I'd never met. Her name was Ruth, and she was 76 years old. "Mrs. Washington, I saw you on the news," she said, her voice trembling. "And I have to tell you something. My husband did the same thing to me. Took out life insurance, forged my signature, started asking questions about my medications. I've been too scared to do anything about it. But watching you in that courtroom, you gave me courage. I'm calling a lawyer tomorrow." I talked to Ruth for an hour. I gave her Marcus's number. I told her she wasn't alone. She was the first, but she wasn't the last. Over the next week, I got 17 more calls, emails, messages through the church, women, and 3 men who'd experienced similar betrayals. Some had proof, some only had suspicions. But all of them needed to know they weren't crazy, weren't alone, weren't powerless. I started a support group. We met at Greater Hope Baptist every Thursday night. Started with just 5 people. Within a month, we had 35. We called ourselves Worth More, because every single one of us was worth more than we'd been told, worth more than we'd been treated, worth more than the lies we'd believed about ourselves. Marcus helped several of them file legal cases. Patricia Okonkwo took on 3 pro bono clients. We became a network, a community, a force. Vernon's trial came in February, exactly as scheduled. It lasted 3 days. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and came back with guilty verdicts on all counts: insurance fraud, forgery, theft by deception. Judge Foster sentenced him to 5 years in prison and ordered him to pay restitution, including the $15,000 he owed Candace. He was led away in handcuffs, still insisting he'd done nothing wrong. Deanna Pierce, who'd testified against him in exchange for probation, watched him go with tears streaming down her face. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The divorce was finalized in April. The judge voided the quitclaim deed, returning the house to my name. Vernon was ordered to pay me $150,000 in compensatory damages, half the money he'd stolen from our accounts, plus interest and penalties. His pension from his own years of work was split 50-50, as was fair. But my teacher's pension remained entirely mine. I kept the house, kept my pension, kept my dignity, and I started over. At 72 years old, I bought myself a car, a brand new silver Honda that I'd picked out all by myself. I redecorated the house, room by room, until it didn't look anything like the place Vernon and I had shared. I took a trip to Ghana with Betty, finally tracing our roots the way I'd always wanted to. I started substitute teaching again, just 1 or 2 days a week. Turned out I missed it, missed the kids, missed the purpose. And I started speaking at churches, community centers, anywhere that would have me. Telling my story, encouraging other people to stand up, speak out, refuse to be victims. On my 73rd birthday, my children threw me a party at Maxine's. Yes, the same restaurant where I'd confronted Vernon. We reclaimed that space, filled it with love and laughter instead of betrayal. All 3 of my kids were there, my 7 grandchildren. Betty, my Worth Moore group, Reverend Patterson, Mother Gladys, Shanice and Candace. Marcus stood up to give a toast. To my mother, who taught me that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and moving forward with your head held high. You're the strongest person I know, Mama. Happy birthday. Everyone raised their glasses. To Loretta! Later, after the cake was cut and the presents were opened, Mother Gladys pulled me aside. "You know what I love most about your story?" she said. "What's that?" "It didn't end when you thought it would. When Vernon betrayed you, that could have been the end. But instead, it was a beginning, a new chapter. You're doing more good now than you ever did when you were trying to be the perfect wife to an imperfect man." She was right. In the year since I'd discovered Vernon's betrayal, I'd helped 19 people escape abusive or fraudulent relationships. I'd testified before the state legislature about financial abuse of the elderly. I'd started a scholarship fund for older women going back to school after divorce or widowhood. I'd found my purpose, not in being someone's wife, but in being myself. Vernon sent me a letter from prison. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Loretta," it began, "I know you'll probably never forgive me. I don't expect you to, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. You deserved better. You always deserved better. I was a fool to throw away 50 years with a good woman for money and a fantasy. I hope you're happy. I hope you've built a good life without me. And I hope someday you can forgive me, even if I don't deserve it. Vernon." I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back. "Vernon, I accept your apology, but you're right. You don't deserve my forgiveness yet. Maybe someday you will. I hope prison gives you time to think about the man you became and the man you could have been. I hope you find peace. I've found mine. Loretta." I never heard from him again. 2 years after everything fell apart, I was sitting in my living room, my redecorated, reimagined living room, when my granddaughter Zara came to visit. She was 23, fresh out of college, engaged to be married. "Grandma," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Anything, sweet girl." "Are you scared? Of being alone?" I thought about that question. 2 years ago, I would have said yes. After 50 years of marriage, the thought of being alone terrified me. But now? No, baby. I'm not scared. Because I'm not alone. I have my children, my grandchildren, my friends, my church, my work. I have a whole life that's mine. Not shared, not compromised, not diminished by someone else's lies. And you know what? I like that life. But don't you miss being married? Having a partner? I miss what I thought I had. I miss the dream of partnership, of growing old with someone who loved me as much as I loved them. But I don't miss the reality of what my marriage actually was. A slow erosion of my self-worth at the hands of someone I trusted. Zara was quiet for a moment. Then, "I think Derek might be lying to me. About money. He's always vague about his finances, and he wants me to sign a prenup that gives him everything if we divorce. Then don't marry him. Not yet. Not until you know for sure who he is and what he wants. Because, baby, love is beautiful. But love without honesty, without respect, without partnership, that's not love. That's just a pretty lie waiting to break your heart. She cried in my arms, this young woman who looked so much like me at her age. And I thought about all the Zaras out there, all the young women on the verge of making the same mistakes I'd made, trusting the wrong people, ignoring red flags, believing that love would be enough. It wasn't enough. It never was. But self-respect, boundaries, courage, those were enough. Those would carry you through anything. 3 months later, Zara called off her engagement. Derek had been hiding gambling debts and expected her to pay them off after the wedding. She'd asked the right questions, demanded the truth, and refused to accept his lies. I learned from the best, she told me, from my grandmother who refused to be a victim. On the 3rd anniversary of discovering Vernon's betrayal, I woke up in my house, and realized I was happy. Genuinely, completely happy. Not the fake happiness I'd performed for 50 years, but real joy that came from knowing exactly who I was and what I was worth. I made myself coffee, cream, no sugar, and sat on my porch watching the sunrise. The neighborhood was waking up around me, kids heading to school, people going to work, life continuing the way it always did. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Love you, Mama, proud of you every day. Another text from Ruth, the first woman who'd called me after the trial. 3 years free today. Thank you for showing me the way. Another from Mother Gladys. Thursday night meeting at 7. Bring cookies. We got 5 new members coming. I sat there reading messages from my children, my friends, my Worthmore family, and I realized something. Vernon had tried to take everything from me. My money, my home, my dignity, maybe even my life. He'd failed. But more than that, his betrayal had broken me open in a way that let something new grow. Something stronger. Something better. Something entirely mine. I was Loretta Mae Washington, 75 years old, retired teacher, fraud survivor, advocate, grandmother, friend, fighter, and I was worth more than any lie, any betrayal, any person who tried to make me small. I was worth everything. That evening, I drove my silver Honda to Greater Hope Baptist for the Thursday meeting. 37 people showed up, the biggest group yet. We went around the circle, everyone sharing their stories, their victories, their struggles. When it was my turn, I said what I always said. My name is Loretta, and I'm worth more. We're all worth more, the group responded in unison. And we were. Every single one of us. Worth more than we'd been told, worth more than we'd been treated, worth more than the lies we'd almost believed about ourselves. After the meeting, as I was packing up the leftover cookies, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 30, and she looked terrified. Mrs. Washington, my name is Taylor. I saw you speak last month at the community center. I think my husband is stealing from me. I think he's planning to leave me with nothing. I don't know what to do. I took her hand. You start by knowing your worth. You start by refusing to be a victim. You start by standing up and saying no more. Can you do that? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I think so. I want to try. Then we'll help you. That's what we're here for. You're not alone, Taylor. You're worth more than this. And we're going to make sure you get everything you deserve. As I drove home that night, I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago. Terrified, betrayed, broken. And I thought about the woman I was now. Strong, free, whole. Vernon had wanted to destroy me. Instead, He'd set me free to become the person I was always meant to be. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.